Welcome, y'all, to Fitness for 55 Plus, brought to you by Stronger Life. My name is Dr. Dustin Jones.
Dr. Jeff Musgrave, Doctor of Physical Therapy.
All right. We are in Stronger Life, Lexington, Kentucky, the life-changing fitness center for folks specifically over 55. We also have an associated Facebook group with this podcast, Fitness for 55 Plus by Stronger Life. If you type that into the Facebook group search or just search Stronger Life, you'll see that Facebook group come up. And this is where we field a lot of questions related to fitness, health, specifically for folks over 55. So today's question, it's a good one. Elaine, thank you, Elaine, for the question. Is strength training more important than cardio in a woman over 60?
Boom.
And we could throw in a man in there too.
Yeah.
People, humans, because the response may be somewhat similar. But is strength training more important than cardio in a woman over 60? Let's do this. What would Dr. Jeff have said in 2010? Or sorry, 2007.
I would have said cardio.
Yeah. What does 2023 Jeff say? No.
Strength.
Why?
The short answer would be strength. Stronger people, there's a quote from strength training coach Mark Ripito, and he said, stronger people are harder to kill.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, more useful. But that's what the research, like when we look at the body of research, is the stronger you are, the more you can have. Here's your base level of like the strength I need to do daily life, the things I want to do. The more reserve we have up above that, the longer we're likely to live, the stronger our bones, the easier day-to-day life is.
Mm.
You did a whole publication about it where you referenced 1 rep max living.
Mm.
I think that's a great like mindset when we're thinking about strength, the future, and what day-to-day life looks for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the interesting thing, especially like when I say 2007, we started physical therapy school in 2008. So, and we were both heavily into running at that point. So we definitely had a bias towards cardio. And I think what's interesting is as the research has grown of tracking people over time as they age and looking at these different outcomes, right? Like health outcomes, but then quality of life and who maintains their independence the longer. And the biggest variable is how strong someone is. It's not how much endurance they have. It's how strong they are. In particular, leg strength is one of the biggest indicators of you maintaining your independence over the long haul, not cardio, no endurance-based measure. And that's not to say, and I think a lot of people confuse this. So like we're saying never do cardio, like, or never do endurance-based.
Like,
that's
the case at all.
Yeah, that's not what we're saying. But like if we're going to do something, we need to really emphasize strength training. And that should be a huge part, probably the majority of a program. I think what's really cool too about this question from Elaine is our friend Becca Georgery, she's a physical therapist. She's done some really cool research on masters athletes. And yeah, you got to meet her. You got to see the fitness athlete exam at the National Senior Games in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And this explained to folks what, I guess, quick and dirty, of like what the SAFE is. Like what is the SAFE? Senior Athlete Fitness, or what's a part of the SAFE?
Yeah. I mean, part of the SAFE is like gathering physical performance metrics that can predict your health to some degree, like normative values for like strength, balance, mobility.
Mm-hmm.
There's even hip to weight measurement for assessing cardiovascular risk, those type things. But looking at like what an athlete, someone who's doing more than the minimum, like what they can do versus the general population.
Yeah.
Because looking at athletes and people that are doing more than the minimum, doing strength training, doing cardiovascular training, their performance is like heads and tails above what we see in the like most of the medical data sets and like the cutoff values that we grew up learning, through PT school.
Mm-hmm.
And we're finding that these athletes can just perform at a much higher level than the general population. The minimum that you should be able to walk, like your walking speed, for example, for normal for your age is here. And then an athlete, someone who is pushing themselves, staying more active, doing more than the minimum, is way up here to have that higher reserve.
She's uncovering a lot, and that those tests, and she's showing what Jeff just said in terms of like, regardless of the sport, these folks are just doing better across the board. But also what she's doing is she'll run every athlete through these tests. And so she's got these data sets to show as well, like what sport may be better in terms of how they perform on these different performance measures. Like, is it better to get into pickleball or is it better to get into cycling when you look at quality of life and independence and some of these outcome measures that we use to kind of predict how folks are going to do? And what Becca is showing is that the strength, in particular power, like doing movements quickly, those folks in those types of sports are doing a little bit better as they age than folks that may just do the cardio stuff like cycling and just long distance running, for example. If I recall, which it may be different now, but pickleball was one of the best things for that, because there's a lot of quick movements, a lot of reaction timing. They're typically just stronger individuals. And all that to say, her research is really also proving the point that you want to give preference to strength, to doing things that require strength versus just focusing on cardio and focusing on endurance. So yeah, I think the short answer to that question is what we said, 7 minutes ago, that strength, it needs to be more important than cardio, but it definitely is a blend of both. And so when we look at this and what the evidence is showing, how does that get blended into like a Stronger Life class? Like, how does that kind of manifest itself if strength is more important than cardio inside a Stronger Life class?
Yeah, absolutely. So the beautiful thing is, if you're conscientious about how you set up these workouts, you can do both at the same time. So we can use functional movements, control the rest period, and we can force a cardiovascular stimulus or effect to help your fitness while you're also getting stronger. You're using strength movements to get cardiovascular benefits. So we really like focus a lot on doing both at the same time.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people that's new, right? Like they're not used to blending different modalities and ultimately getting many benefits in a relatively shorter period of time. A lot of folks are used to doing, I'm going to do my 3 sets of this strength exercise and I'm going to do my 30 minutes of cardio. It's kind of blocked. And you very rarely see that around here.
Yeah. And the research says, as far as like taking an untrained person to a trained person, it's going to be faster with mixed modality versus doing those blocks. Faster in the standpoint that you're going to get bigger functional gains faster, but you're also going to do it more efficiently. So the amount of work that we can compress into a 45-minute to an hour experience by doing that method of mixing and matching cardio and strength, it'd probably take an hour and a half to do if you're doing one thing at a time, going through the gym. And we do use some cardio equipment, but we're also working on things like muscular endurance. But we don't just like, oh, it's endurance day, we're going to hop on the rower for 20 minutes.
Right.
Like we leverage those intervals and those bouts of higher intensity to get the cardiovascular impact we want, but also working on power. Because if you're only working for 40 seconds, you can go pretty hard.
Yeah.
And you can get the benefits of those power muscles and the endurance and the cardio. And the other thing, like diverging just a little bit here, is a lot of the research that shows that strength has benefits in other areas that most people are concerned about, like balance, like correlations to faster walking speed or longer walking endurance. So it's like if you had to just pick one, strength is going to not only help your strength, your bone density. I'm wondering if that's maybe why this was a question about females, thinking about postmenopausal women, knowing they're finding bone density for bone density benefits as well. So it's like being able to move quickly, bone density, the cardiovascular, and the endurance. I mean, you did an interesting experiment last year with an ultra running 50 miles and primarily doing strength training.
Yeah.
You didn't.
I don't recommend it, but we got it
this
done.
This is not advice for the general public or probably anyone beyond Dustin, but it was a really interesting experiment where you really just focused on building your peak in strength. You did some longer runs, some 2-hour efforts, but the race itself was 12 hours. So you did a fraction of the training, but that strength carried over very beautifully into endurance.
Yeah.
And without an injury. which is even more impressive.
Yeah.
Another benefit of strength training is injury prevention.
Man, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I may do it again this year.
You probably will. I think you're on track for it.
And once again, if you are looking into running a marathon or a 50 miler, we do not recommend that approach. But if you want to be a guinea pig, it was kind of interesting to
see how far strength could take you.
Yeah.
Without having to do the endurance work.
Yeah.
Like the longer training stuff. You did better than me. I spent a lot more time on, like a lot more mileage. I had several 20 milers leading up to that. You didn't do any of those, and you did great. I mean, it's not,
it worked
this
out
is
okay.
not general advice, but it's really interesting to really push that envelope and see what you can get with strength alone.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, strength training, more important than cardio.
Yeah.
We'll say it.
If I had to pick one,
Yeah.
I'd pick strength training.
For women over 60, but then guys, for you too. So this is not a gender-based thing. I'd say it is very important for women, like Jeff alluded to, with the postmenopausal changes and the risk for osteoporosis, bone mineral density issues, those types of things. But guys, it's very important as well. So if you're a human, you should probably be doing strength training. So
Yeah.
thank you, Elaine, for that question. Very good question. Once again, if you have an issue, an injury, or you have some type of question, nutrition, whatever it is, health, fitness related to people over 55, go on to Facebook, Fitness for 55 plus by Stronger Life. You search that, our group will come up and you can submit that question in the group. That's where we're getting these questions. So thank you once again, Elaine. Appreciate y'all listening, watching, wherever you're consuming this, and we'll talk to you soon.